What's up, guys? Behind me is the statue of Joan of Arc. Today we'll be visiting her birthplace and explore the history behind her. It's considered one of the most famous French people.
Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc in French, is a French hero. She is also known as the Maid of Orleans. She is considered to be one of history's greatest saints and an enduring symbol of French unity and nationalism. Since we are at her childhood home at Domremy in France, I will tell you a brief history of her life, and then we will walk around her birthplace, which is now a museum. Born around 1412, Jeanne d'Arc was the daughter of a tenant farmer, Jacques d'Arc, from the village of Domremy in northeastern France. She was not taught to read or write, but her pious mother, Isabelle Romy, instilled in her a deep love for the Catholic Church and its teachings. At the time, France had long been torn apart by a bitter conflict with England, later known as the Hundred Years' War, in which England had gained the upper hand. A peace treaty in 1420 disinherited the French Crown Prince Charles of Valois amid accusations of his illegitimacy, and King Henry V was made ruler of both England and France. His son Henry VI succeeded him in 1422, along with his French allies led by Philip the Good, Duke of Burgundy. England occupied much of northern France, and many in Joan of Arc's village were forced to abandon their homes under a threat of invasion. At the age of 13, Joan began to hear voices and receive visions from the Archangel Michael, Saint Margaret, and Saint Catherine of Alexandria. She determined they had been sent by God to give her a mission of overwhelming importance: to save France by expelling its enemies, and to install Charles as its rightful king. As a part of this divine mission, Joan took a vow of chastity. At the age of 16, after her father attempted to arrange a marriage for her, she successfully convinced a local court that she should not be forced to accept the match. In May 1428, Joan made her way to Vaucouleurs, a nearby stronghold of those loyal to Charles. Initially rejected by the local magistrate Robert de Baudricourt, she was rejected twice, but she persisted, attracting a small band of followers who believed her claims to be the Virgin, who, according to a popular prophecy, was destined to save France. When Baudricourt relented, Joan cropped her hair and dressed in men's clothes to make the 11-day journey across enemy territory to Chinon, site of the Crown Prince's palace. Joan's first meeting with Charles VII took place at the royal court in late February or early March of 1429. She was 17 and he was 26. Charles had hidden himself in the crowd among members of the court, but Joan quickly identified and approached him. Joan told him that she had come to raise the siege of Orleans and to lead him to Reims for his coronation. They also had a private exchange that made a strong impression on Charles, but Charles and his council needed more assurance. They sent her to Poitiers to be examined by a council of theologians to verify her morality and to ensure her orthodoxy. The council declared her a good Catholic and a good person. Joan promised Charles she would see him crowned king at Reims, the traditional site for the French royal coronations, and asked him to give her an army to lead to Orleans, then under siege from the English. Against the advice of most of his counselors and generals, Charles granted her request, and Joan set off to fend off the siege of Orleans in March of 1429, dressed in white armor and riding a white horse. After sending off a defiant letter to the enemy, Joan led several French assaults against them, driving the Anglo-Burgundians from their bastion and forcing their retreat across the Loire River. After such a miraculous victory, Joan's reputation spread far and wide among French forces. During the following June, Joan played a key role in the Loire campaign, which culminated in a decisive defeat of the English at the Battle of Patay. After the battle, she and her followers escorted Charles across enemy territory, and the French army advanced to Reims and entered the city on July 16, 1429. The next day, Charles was consecrated as the King of France in Reims Cathedral with Joan at his side. These victories boosted French morale and paved the way for the final French victory in the Hundred Years' War at Castillon in 1453. Joan argued that the French should press their advantage with an attempt to retake Paris, but Charles wavered, even as his favorite at court, Georges de la Tremoille, warned him that Joan was becoming too powerful. But the Anglo-Burgundians were able to fortify their positions in the city. Joan and Duke John II of Alençon's army besieged Paris. As a result, an assault on the city was launched on September 8. It failed, and Joan was wounded by an arrow. The French forces withdrew and Charles disbanded the army. By October, Joan had recovered and participated in an attack on the territory of Peringue-Gressa, a mercenary who had been in service of the English and the Burgundian faction, a group of French nobles allied with the English. After some initial successes, the campaign ended in a failed attempt to take Gressa's stronghold at the Siege of La Charité. By December, Joan was back at the French court, where she learned that she and her family had been ennobled by Charles VII. In the spring of 1430, the king ordered Joan to confront a Burgundian assault at Compiègne. In her effort to defend the town and its inhabitants, she was thrown from her horse and was left outside the town's gates as they closed. The Burgundians took her captive and brought her amid much fanfare at the castle of Bouvray, occupied by the French commander at Rouen. She was put on trial by the pro-English bishop Pierre Couchot, and Joan was ordered to answer to some 70 charges against her, including witchcraft, heresy, and dressing like a man. The Anglo-Burgundians were aiming to get rid of the young leader as well as discredit Charles, who owed his coronation to her. In attempting to distance himself from the accused heretic and witch, the French king made no attempt to negotiate Joan's release. In May 1943, after a year in captivity and under threat of death, Joan relented and signed a confession denying that she had ever received divine guidance. Several days later, however, she defied orders by again donning men's clothes, and authorities pronounced her death sentence. On the morning of May 30, 1431, at the age of 19, Joan was taken to the old marketplace at Rouen and burned at the stake. Her fame only increased after her death, however, and 20 years later, a new trial ordered by Charles VII cleared her name. It was authorized by Pope Calixtus III, which investigated the original trial, which was found to have been a deceit, fraud, and incorrect procedure. The verdict of Joan's original trial was nullified, and the stain of Joan's name declared to be erased. Joan has been venerated as a martyr since her death. After the French Revolution, she became a national symbol of France. She had attained mythic standing, inspiring numerous works of arts and literature over the centuries, and becoming the patron saint of France. She was beatified in 1909 in in the famous Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris by Pope Pius X and declared a secondary patron saint of France in 1922. Joan of Arc has remained a popular figure in literature, painting, sculpture, and other cultural works since the time of her death, and many famous writers, playwrights, filmmakers, artists, and composers have created and continue to create cultural depictions of her. Now you know the life of Joan of Arc. Now let's take a walk around her birthplace. First, you will see the visitor center where they have the gift shop where you can browse for souvenirs and readings about the famous saint. Then inside there will be exhibit about her life and some exhibits of the people living during the time. Now let's go to her house. It is her birthplace, identified as such as early as the 15th century. It was originally a family home of the 20-hectare estate of Jacques d'Arc, a wealthy and notable peasant in town, and his wife Isabelle Romy. It is supported on the hillside itself in the village of Domremy, on the banks of the Meuse, which serves as the border between the Duchy of Bar and the Duchy of Lorraine. In 1420, Jacques also became one of the farmers of the estate of the former castle of Isle, where he settled. Joan was the shepherdess of her father's flocks of sheep. In the facade is a 17th century coat of arms and a statue representing Joan kneeling in armor. The current house is with one floor and attic, and it has been modified several times over the centuries. She lived here with her parents, Jacques d'Arc and Isabelle Romy, with her brothers Jacques, Jean, and Pierre, and her sister Catherine. The Department of Vosges purchased the house in 1818, restored it, and converted it into a museum. The 4-room ground floor has been renovated and open to the public. Joan's bedroom and her brother's and the cellar are open to the public. The house was classified as a historical monument in 1840, and it gives you a basic idea of Joan's humble beginnings. They also have a small garden in the back. And a yard in the front. Close by is the church of Sainte-Remy-de-Ras. The church in which Joan was baptized stands next to her home. It retains a 13th century tower.
Guys, I hope you enjoy our tour. Till next time. Bye.
So guys, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and feel free to comment.
Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell. Come on guys, hit the bell.
For notifications.
And don't forget to share.
And like.